We are live. Welcome back.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. So, it's over.
Dude, it's over. The finale of Loki season 2 just happened. Um,
Now I
I got
can, yeah.
thoughts about this. This was interesting
This was something
because
else.
there's a lot of things that I find weird, and then there's one thing that is super weird, but I'm completely okay with. Um,
Um,
let's get into it. Non-spoiler review. I don't know if I can even give a non-spoiler review on this.
so,
Can you?
if you were to, with this episode, if you took Loki seasons 1 and 2 completely out of the MCU, you would lose nothing.
Yeah. It's kind of its own thing.
In other words, it's pointless.
Yeah. I well, this episode felt like it was more important than the rest of the show, in all honesty.
Yeah, but
Um,
like, I guess,
because
yeah.
we actually had something like interesting happen in this. Now, lead up to it was weird, and I have a bunch of questions about that. But I was at least interested, like, oh, okay, we actually have something happening instead of just the same crap for the last 4 episodes. It is Caleb is you're exactly right. Like you don't need to watch anything else to understand this. Like um so yeah.
In my time on Twitter, it looks like this was just supposed to be its own thing. They're not doing a season 3 or anything. This was just
Mhm.
supposed to be like a season 1 and season 2 and that's it. So,
Yeah. Let's um let's just go ahead and hop into spoiler reviews cuz I don't know how much else I can say without keeping it non-spoiler.
so
So,
John, tell
first
me
things first. First things first, they kind of answered my question about his powers in the last episode, like how that works. So apparently he can just transfer his consciousness or whatever
Yeah, dude.
into his previous self. I was curious about that, and they at least explained, like not explained it, but like,
Well, yeah, it's a plot hole now cuz like you said, like it was different earlier and now it's
mhm.
now
I mean,
it's
maybe he can just do both. Like that's cool, I guess. I guess they just wanted the audience to figure that out, or they didn't care to explain it. It's whatever.
I think it's just a
Um,
straight up plot hole. They wanted it to be like different versions of him in one episode, and in the next episode, they were like, no, we can't do that.
yeah.
Can you tell me
I don't
what
know.
happened in this episode?
What didn't happen in this episode? So
My goodness.
basically, the whole thing with the time loom and them having like Victor go out to try and fix it, he just resets time over and over and over and over to try and get it right.
He's trying to
And
save
like,
the time loom. Yeah.
it's what, like centuries later?
Dude, that line threw me off for the rest of the episode. I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it basically says like he goes back and he's trying to rush timely. He's trying to figure out like what they could have done different to make sure that this whole thing goes better, and like
Yeah.
he's trying to figure out what they can do to fix this time loom. And then they're like, "Oh, we would need centuries," and text pops up on the screen. It goes centuries later, and we're supposed to think that Loki for centuries has been going back in time to try to figure this thing out. Centuries. And I put this together because I was curious. You know how many episodes of Loki you could watch in a century? Just one century? You could watch 876,000 at least. Like, that's just an hour long. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't think they know what they're saying when they say centuries. Like, in centuries, your personality would change. You would have an existential crisis. You'd give
Yeah,
up.
that
Like,
was that was my biggest thing. I don't think there's enough. They haven't given us enough information about how his whole time slipping works. Like maybe you're still kind of the same. I don't know. They don't. We don't know yet,
Dude, we're never gonna get
which
an
is,
explanation. This is it. This is all we have.
I think, yeah.
Marvel
It's
has
very
Marvel
confusing.
has made a living off of telling us that they'll explain it next show or movie, and they just never do. They're never gonna explain this.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically they do a bunch of stuff and then Victor ends up kind of fixing it. He comes back, then everything goes to crap and basically Victor says, the time loom can't hold an infinite number of timelines. It's like trying to divide by zero. It's not possible.
Yeah,
And
they finally get it all fixed, and he's like, "Oh yeah, well,
centuries later, by the way.
yeah, you didn't think of this plot hole for the last at least 200 years, but turns out you can't actually fix it because like essentially you're trying to account for too many, and obviously the multiverse is infinite, and so sucks to be
Yeah.
you."
Yeah. So Loki,
Oh, this is
he
interesting,
goes
by
back
the
to
way.
see Mobius.
Loki, just for the record, just so we have this out, Loki can now travel anywhere at any time at will with no
Mhm.
consequences. He can do whatever he wants. He can
Yeah,
teleport 100 years in the past. He can teleport 100 years in the future. It looks like he can teleport anywhere in the universe, including to places like the TVA, which are technically outside of the universe. How he got this ability, we actually still don't know because he
it's
had,
just assumed that he refined it over centuries.
well, like, he refined it, but how did he get it? Because he fixed it in the first episode, and then suddenly he had it back again.
Dude, that's a fantastic question. It'd be cool if we got an explanation on it.
And so he is literally like the most important person in the MCU at this point. He can do
hmm
whatever he wants.
So he has this scene where he kind of tries to figure things out. I think he goes back to see Mobius back when he first got interrogated in the TVA.
Oh yeah. He goes back to
Yeah.
revisit old moments from the first season.
hmm And long story short, he ends up going back to where he and Sylvie met He Who Remains. And can
Hmm.
I just say that um Jonathan Majors is a lot better as He Who
He did
Remains than
better.
Victor Timely.
He did
He's
better.
like way better. I actually like somewhat enjoyed that scene
That
just
was
watching
probably
them
my
kind of.
favorite part. Yeah. It was pretty
It
good,
was There was
honestly.
some cool stuff there. I will say that this episode, one thing that it did do that a lot of the others did not is that it kept my interests peaked the most of the time. I was like, okay, I wonder how they're gonna do this. I wonder, and I did really like the scene between Loki and He Who Remains. But yeah, he goes back and basically he tries to prevent Sylvie from killing He Who Remains. And then he tries it over and over and he can't beat her, and that makes absolutely zero sense to me. Also, in that fight scene, dude, he's so uncoordinated. You're telling me this is the guy who in Avengers, Hawkeye shot an arrow at him, and without looking, he just grabbed it.
Well,
You're telling me this is the same guy.
I'm going to go ahead and defend this
Centuries later.
show.
Centuries later, by the way.
I'm going to go ahead and
I think
defend the
he's.
show, shockingly. But in the first episode, remember, he tells Mobius that he's not really trying to fight her. So I think that's kind of the impression you're supposed to get, where he's not actually fighting back.
Yes, but he fails all those times, and like, I don't know. I have a hard time believing that.
I'm
That
not saying
if
it's
you're able
good.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're able to try a fight over and over and over as many times as you want, there's no real explanation as to why he just loses every time. And it doesn't have to be end with him killing Sylvie. Like obviously he's not trying to do that. But I have a hard time believing that this man just lost every single just an infinite number of times.
And
That's so
yeah,
weird.
obviously he doesn't age or need food or anything like that. He doesn't change at all. In the
Yeah.
centuries, in the like hundreds of thousands of hours, possibly millions of hours, he hasn't changed a bit.
Yeah.
But the
So
conversation with He Who Remains was like, I thought it was mostly fine, although, like, I'm gonna be honest, since they've never fully explained what the time loom is and like how it works with his sacred timeline and what exactly Kang or how Kang has controlled all this, I don't think it makes much sense. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So they have this whole conversation, and there is a moment where basically he remains like, "Oh, how many times have you tried this?" He figures out that Loki has these time powers, and as the conversation goes on, there's a point where Loki stops him because it seems like this is Loki's first time learning all this stuff that he's telling him. And then Loki stops him, and he's just like, "What makes you think this is the first time I've heard this conversation?" I loved that part. I thought it was cool.
By
Um,
the way, Loki can also just randomly like freeze people in time. He doesn't just
yeah,
control himself, he controls everything around him.
yeah, that's
So,
also a
there's
thing that
that.
he can do.
Like, this guy would be pretty useful to have around Avengers Endgame, but that's
Hmm.
okay.
Um,
So
so yeah,
basically, they're having this whole conversation because he's like, we need the multiverse so that we don't have to keep on pruning timelines, because pruning timelines means killing lots of people. And Kang is like, he's given the old spiel about, oh yes, but then different versions of me will come around. And then, spaghettification, like, they never really address that the universe around them is falling apart. Could you? I'm sorry. Could you make any sense of like what all of the roles are? Like, legitimately, can you tell me what the process is with the time loom and Kang's involvement with all of it?
so it from what I took from it is that the time loom only protects the sacred timeline, like the main one. Um, and that the time loom, if everything starts to branch out, the time loom can't contain it. So the only way that the time loom can function by itself is if you're only protecting the sacred timeline and you prune everything else.
Okay. But even like when they had the sacred or the time loom branching out, like there was still a multiverse, right? Because the
Yeah.
multiverse happened at the end of season 1.
Hmm.
Um
I
yeah.
don't know. It's not the best explained thing in the show.
Yeah. Well, it needs to be because it's the central conflict.
Mhm.
Uh
Yeah. So basically, Loki comes to the realization that so he goes back, talks to Sylvie, and he's just like, "All right, so I either kill he has to kill Sylvie in the past,
mhm.
or just let the sacred timeline continue." And then she does this whole thing about like fighting for yourselves or whatever. I'm gonna be honest. Whenever she goes on like a long monologue, I shut my brain off. I'm just gonna be straight up honest with you.
Yeah, same. But
um,
basically, he's being told that like he needs to kill her because as soon as she killed him, then the multiverse happened and that started destroying all of reality, kind of thing.
yeah. And
And you'll
so
never guess how they fix that problem. Like you'll literally never guess.
so he goes back. This is so random the more I think about it. It kind of just hit me how random this is.
Yep.
And part of me, here's the thing. Part of me really enjoyed just visually this scene because it did
Oh
look
yeah,
really cool.
it dude, the visuals and the music for this whole episode are
Yeah.
great. I love them.
Here's the thing, and also in general, I'll get into this later. Part of me's kind of okay with this because of reasons that I'll get into. But he walks out towards the time loom without anything on. They don't explain that. Apparently, he doesn't. So Victor Timely, when he went out, he had to have this whole like
Mhm.
astronaut suit on. And
Yep.
Loki just walks out there with nothing. He's completely fine. As he's walking out, I loved the visuals on this. Dude, his like suit melts away and he
Mhm.
has like the Loki outfit and like the big horns. That looked absolutely phenomenal and I loved it.
Mhm.
Um and then he breaks the time loom. He kind of like puts his hands up and breaks
He
it.
just just with his hands out. That's how he breaks it.
Yeah. Yeah, he just goes. Apparently, he's that strong. So, my biggest confusion here is the power levels on Loki are so weird.
Dude, Loki is
It's like he's
omnipotent.
only so powerful when the plot. His powers are only. He's only like super powerful when the plot needs him to be.
Dude,
Is
he
what I'm
can do
taking away
whatever he
from this.
wants. He can like freeze people in time. He can move things around. He can break
Yeah,
things just by looking at them.
and so basically, all the threads, which I guess represent the different timelines, kind of like
Mhm.
fall down, and he basically starts like grabbing the threads and like kind of like putting life into them. Then he takes
He just
all the
like
threads, and they kind of like
he
he
just goes
grabs
like
like he grabs onto them, and he's got like some like attached to like his cape, which I thought looked kind of cool. And he basically goes up, and it's kind of like it looks like a place. It's kind of like the end of time, and there's like a throne that's kind of like made out of gold or whatever.
Mhm.
And he sits there, and basically he's keeping the timelines together. He's keeping them from spaghettifying. Is what's happening.
He becomes the tree of, oh, what's it called? The tree of, is it
Oh yeah.
Etris? Is that what it's called? It's
Oh,
referenced.
I played God of War. I should know how to say this. Yggdrasil.
I think it's referenced in the first Captain America movie and maybe in
Mhm.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, the tree of Yggdrasil. Dude, I can't say that. I've played God of War, both God of Wars too, so I should know how to say that too.
So
That's kind
yeah,
of sad.
if I had any like trust that the MCU had cohesion in it, I would think this was really cool. Like finally paying that off from literally, I think it's referenced in the very first scene in Captain America: The First Avenger, if I remember correctly. I should have checked before this. But it turns out that Loki is the person who made all of that happen.
Yeah, and Loki is now the most powerful person in the MCU. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of okay with that because I feel like he's more deserving of it than a super scroll. Just a little bit. Now, I still think it's weird, but I think if I were to pick between like a super scroll being the most powerful person, and what's her name? I forget.
Oh, I can't remember. Amelia Clark.
Okay, yeah, Gaia, is that her name?
Oh, that's it. Yeah, good for you.
Yeah. If I had to pick between Gaia or Loki being the most powerful person in the MCU, I would pick Loki without a second thought. Now, this could have been set up a lot better.
Well, it doesn't make any
Like,
sense. We don't know where he got
yeah.
these powers.
Yeah, he just out of the blue was just super powerful. I don't know, man, cuz okay, part of this I just had such weird like mixed feelings watching that scene cuz I was
Mhm.
like, okay, this is kind of the Loki I've wanted to see for a while.
It looked sick. I mean, it was
It
shot
was
great and the
cool.
music was really awesome.
Yeah, and I've wanted to see overpowered Loki because that's what he is. But why are we just now getting it, and why is it without any setup or explanation?
Mhm. Well, you can
That's my problem there.
like just to be clear, he can do whatever he wants. He can travel back
Yeah,
in time at any point. He can travel forward. He can travel to any place. He can freeze people in time. He can move things with his mind. Like there's nothing you can't sit down in this show. Like he can do anything he wants.
as it was going on, I was kind of figuring that he was going to become like the new He Who Remains or whatever because
Mhm.
I was like, dude, there is no way that they're going to leave somebody like this powerful around for the Avengers movies because that he could just fix everything instantly.
Yeah. So, do we actually know what happened to He Who Remains? Because we never saw him kill Sylvie, right?
I think he lets He Who Remains die.
Really? Oh, that's right. No, he did, and then he
Yeah.
went back
Then
to
he
right
takes his
before it was
place.
destroyed.
He takes He Who Remains
Oh, right.
place, but
Okay.
it's kind of different. So I think there's now like multiple timelines.
So
Um,
basically, yeah, I found it bizarre because, like, for half the episode, he's talking with He Who Remains and, like, okay, how can I fix this? And Kang's like, you can't because otherwise. He keeps on referencing how he'll come back in the multiverse and not referencing how, like, the time loom literally breaks all of reality. Like, for all that it causes, spaghettification is not referenced in their conversation at all, which I found really
It
bizarre.
could be that he who remains somehow like obviously he knows a lot. Maybe he knew that Loki was going to do what he did, and then that's how he knew he was going to come back later.
I
Now,
wonder,
this
taking
would
that scene
mean,
in isolation where Loki talks to He Who Remains, because I don't think they ever reference spaghettification. I wonder if that was meant for a different plot.
yeah. Now, this would mean that the end credit scene for Ant-Man 3, that's probably within this new sort of like Loki time loom sort of thing with all those Kangs.
Well, I guess I
Um,
wanted to say, because I didn't quite, basically, Loki spends all this time trying to figure out, and he's like, no, you can't. You basically have to kill Sylvie, or you have to kill me, which results in me coming back. Again, not referencing time spaghettification. So Loki probably spends the first maybe 40 minutes of the episode wrestling with that, trying to figure out what to do. He travels back to the first
mhm,
conversation he had with Mobius and is like, "Oh yeah," and he talks with him. I think just to like get perspective because it's like the last time he'll be able to talk with him, and everyone in the show realizes that like we like to see Loki and Mobius, so they go to the first scene and they just talk for a while. And
yeah,
Loki ends up just like he's like, I will find another way. And then he literally just finds another way. Like he just does he
yeah,
just pulls something out.
yeah. It's so weird because none of this feels set up from the other episodes. I I'll be honest, I did like this personally. I enjoyed this episode
Mm-hmm.
a lot more than the other four
Oh yeah.
or the other five, to be honest. Like the first one, I enjoyed. 2 through 5 were weird, and then this one I did enjoy. Like I had a good time watching it. Um, I definitely think Jonathan Majors is better as He Who Remains than weird Victor Timely.
Well, he wasn't doing the same clown act that he was doing at the end of last season either.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah, Renslayer got eaten by Eliath.
yeah, so after Loki fixes or makes the tree or whatever, they flash back to all the people and what they're doing. Renslayer apparently got eaten, so she's not coming back. So okay,
Hmm.
no emotions. Richard Grant never popped up, even though we all thought he
Yeah,
would. So
I was a little disappointed. I'm gonna be
yeah,
honest.
yeah, a little bit. I thought he would like pop up and save her from Eliath or something, but that's okay.
That'd be cool.
We see Mobius and he's just he's watching his past self, and Sylvie's probably still working at McDonald's. Oh, and
Yeah.
then they reference Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania.
Wait, when?
You didn't realize that?
Wait,
Oh
remind me. I
no.
may have forgotten about it.
So B-15 goes to Mobius's desk and she's like, hey, how are those other Kang variants doing? And he's like, one popped up in 616's adjacent realm, but it looks
Oh,
like they took care of it.
that's what that
So I have a
was.
question,
So
right?
they're making that Kang irrelevant. That's probably for the best.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Looking at this show, I've heard rumors. Obviously, Jonathan Majors has a trial going. And I've also heard
Yeah.
rumors that the MCU was thinking of getting rid of him anyway, which could just be cope, but this show may have just gotten rid of Kang as a villain. Do you think that's what they just did?
I think it's very possible. I don't think they've decided yet, but I think they put it in a spot where they can get rid of him if they want to.
Yep. They've tied up all of his loose ends. They've stopped, like,
Hmm.
they've paid off all of the setups, except for that one post credit scene, which, like, is irrelevant pretty much. So,
Well, okay, see now like I'm gonna be honest, I just don't care about Kang because he hasn't been done well.
mm-hmm.
At this point, let's just do Doctor Doom and let's make him good and actually do something interesting. Or do like Galactus. I don't know.
So it's safe to say Loki's never coming back to the MCU, right?
He'll probably show up in Secret Wars.
How? Like, he's not a
I don't
superhero
know.
or like a person anymore. He's basically a tree.
They'll probably tie it in somehow. in Secret Wars is my guess.
It's so bizarre to me that like Loki from the what was it? Was it the fourth or fifth MCU film? This
Yeah.
character that we've seen like try to take over New York, and then like after he died in the first Thor movie, then he died in Thor: The Dark World, then he died in Infinity War, then in Endgame he was teleported here, and now he's sitting in a chair for the rest of eternity holding like the tree of life essentially.
Yeah.
That's where Loki's ended up as a character. So, I hope you're happy with
It's
that.
kind of crazy. Yeah. Well, yeah.
What a show! Like you could literally skip it.
I
There's no reason to watch this.
You could just watch like the last episode
Pretty much,
just to
yeah.
see Loki in his old. Well, I don't think that was his old outfit. I think I still liked it. I thought it, dude, his like horns and like and just that whole outfit that looked sick.
His outfit was cool, yeah.
Why has it taken us this long in the show to see that though? In a show about Loki, dude,
Dude.
it's almost like making a Daredevil show and not having him put his suit on.
There were cool moments about this episode, but it breaks down at every level. If
Yeah.
like you can't explain the plot. The plot makes no sense. And I have
Yeah,
a
no.
feeling you probably couldn't explain Loki as a character anymore either. So,
Yeah.
um
Like out of all the bad writing that Marvel has pumped out, Loki being OP is probably the one that I'm more okay with than some of the other stuff that they've done. Even still, like that doesn't mean it's doesn't mean I think it's done well. I'm just saying, like out of all the crap that they've pumped out, I'm probably the most okay with this one.
so it's probably I think your point probably is that it's one of the least offensive things that they've done.
Yeah,
But it's
a
still
lot
really
of what
bad.
they've done, yeah, a lot of what they've done has just kind of crapped on the OG characters. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So it was kind of nice to see an OG character actually kind of advance instead of just take a step back. Um,
Yeah. But I mean, man, if the MCU were really cool, if these past two seasons really had been building up to this moment, like
mhm.
it would be a really cool ending for a character.
See,
But
I was under the impression that this was gonna set up like a Kang dynasty,
sure.
and it. I don't know. Does this set up Kang dynasty?
So
Like, I
there's
guess
that
it does
one
a little
shot.
bit.
There's that one shot at the end with the young Kang experimenting, and he looks
Yeah.
over at the window where I think Miss Minutes and Ravana were supposed to drop off the uh, the documents. And correct me if I'm
Mhm.
wrong, but I don't think they ever did. So I think that
No.
that might be saying that that young Kang never got the opportunity to make anything, and so like Kang's not a threat anymore. That might be what that shot was trying to say.
Yeah. Dude, I think I honestly the like now that you mentioned that, like with them kind of getting rid of Kang as a villain, the more I think about it, dude, they're probably just getting Kang out of there and they're gonna do Doctor Doom or something else for Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Dude, if they do Doctor Doom, it better be good. They can't do Doctor Doom dirty. That's
Really
gonna piss so
awkward
many people off.
that they were going to do an entire TV show about Kang, plus an Avengers movie, at least one, maybe two.
Hmm.
And now it looks like they've just canceled all those plans. Like, Jonathan
Yeah.
Majors was clearly a big part of their upcoming schedule. Like, I don't know what that TV show was going to be. Like, I was never excited for it, but it was on the
Hmm.
books. Just like the White Vision show. I'm not sure if you ever heard
Oh
of
yeah,
that.
I did hear about that.
Yeah.
On the Agatha show.
Oh,
I guess
well,
that's
that's
still
that's
happening.
coming out, but like there have been a lot of weird projects that have been announced that
Mhm.
haven't been elaborated on at all.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
dude. yeah, that was our review of the final episode of Loki.
It's bad.
Yeah, dude, I'll be honest. I wouldn't recommend this show to someone. I
Yeah.
would maybe recommend the final episode. I'd be like, dude, just watch that if you want to see him do something cool.
Yeah,
Like if you,
I don't see any reason to like not watch the final episode. I mean, it makes no
yeah,
sense, but like that's okay. Like if someone were to just watch the sixth and final episode, I don't think they would have any better idea of what exactly was going on than we do.
yeah, pretty much, pretty much.
Although the conversation with him and He Who Remains,
That was cool.
it didn't make
I
much
liked
sense,
that.
but I liked their dynamic. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and presumably this is going to be the last time we see. Well, no. Do you think? Because there have been rumors that the TVA is going to pop up in maybe Deadpool 3 and then in future Avengers movies. What do you think the chances are of us seeing Mobius again?
Pretty high, probably.
Really?
I've heard some people talk about how he's gonna be in Deadpool 3.
Okay.
In other news, the actors strike is over.
Hmm.
Um, so Deadpool 3 is the only Marvel movie coming out next year.
Oh, no, no,
That,
no.
in
That's
my
not
opinion,
true. I saw a list of Marvel movies coming out next
it
year.
was all set for 2025. Unless we saw a
That's.
completely different list.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
one
yeah. Let
that
me
I
double
saw
check
like
that.
only set Deadpool 3 for 2024. I heard that they've had problems with Cap 4, which big surprise. But
Hang on. Let me look into this. Keep talking.
yeah, I would say Deadpool 3 I'm actually excited for. That's probably the only one that I'm actually like really excited for as of right now. So,
Yeah, you're right. Wow.
mhm.
Wow. I could have sworn that. Dude, it's the only Marvel movie?
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be completely 100% honest. I think that's for the best.
That's crazy.
Dude, I think we've had so much mid Marvel content. Let's pump the brakes. Hopefully, Deadpool 3's good. And that's all we'll have next year. That Marvel can just take one W and then just kind of reset itself and maybe like actually try and make some good content moving forward.
Well, we might be getting Echo, Agatha, and Ironheart next year.
Oh, I forgot
So
about shows.
there is that.
Dude, like Echo, my interests are peaked. Agatha and Ironheart, I'll watch them just to review them. That's the only reason I'll watch them as of right now.
Best way to do both of them is to make them TVMA. It's like the perfect marketing strategy at this point. Everyone will be like, "Oh,
Dude,
cool, it's rated
there's
R. I'll watch it."
I don't think they'll make Ironheart rated TVMA.
No, I know, but like if they
There's
wanted to
no
market it
way.
well, I think like that's the only way to get people to watch these shows
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah, I think you're right.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm
Well,
super glad we don't have to be doing this. Are we still going to be streaming Thursdays, just not at 11 and whatever?
yeah, we could do Thursdays, and if you wanted to, you could get caught up on Invincible. We could just review Invincible on Thursdays.
Oh yeah, cool. There are a couple other things I guess to talk about, but we can do like
Hmm.
a different stream later on in this week. So, thank you for
Yeah.
watching.
Yep.
Glad
Everyone, let us know
we
what you thought of Loki.
yeah,
Uh,
let us know.
Especially those of you that like it, because I'm still struggling to
Curious,
get in
man.
that mindset. I am really curious. I
Legitimately, if
need to
someone could
find
sit
somebody.
down and explain this plot to me, that would be great. Because maybe it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we will see y'all in the next stream. Hopefully we'll do a review of the Marvels soon, so keep an eye out for
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
can't wait. Exciting.
All right. We will see